Hi, my name is Susanne Soederberg, and I'd like to talk to you today about a few key points of a forthcoming article coming out in Antipode entitled Subprime Mortgages Go South. I apologize for the horsey voice, but it is cold related. So let me just begin. The act of slicing and dicing various housing loans and selling this consumer debt to institutional investors, such as pension funds and mutual funds, or what Wall Street refers to as mortgage-backed securitization, has come under critical scrutiny since the 2008 subprime crisis. What has been less well studied in the debates, however, is the role of mortgage securitization in the Global South. Although small in comparison to the United States, mortgage securitization has been growing rapidly in Mexico and currently represents the largest market of its kind in Latin America. A large reason for this growth is that mortgage securitization has been widely viewed and supported by financial pundits, policymakers, and development practitioners such as the Inter-American Development Bank as highly beneficial for developing countries where extreme housing shortages continue to exist. Mortgage securitization is also appealing to these neoliberal ideologues as it falls well into what has become the development tool in the new millennium, namely financial inclusion, where the poor are invited to voluntarily enter into debt to meet basic subsistence needs. Even in the wake of the 2008 crisis, mortgage securitization has been seen as a win-win strategy for the Global South that allows the seller of debt to rapidly recover working capital and then recycle it to issue new loans to small borrowers. Given the grave consequences involved when securitization goes wrong, it is vital that we critically and rigorously examine the social and historical dimensions of this seemingly innocuous and technical instrument that allegedly possesses universal benefits, particularly with regard to the growing numbers of under and unemployed workers, or what Marx referred to as the relative surplus population. That said, the core questions driving my article are not only why housing deficiencies have continued to affect the near majority of the population in Mexico, well after the first issuance of mortgage securitization in 2003, but also who benefits from the reproduction of relatively high-cost housing and the limited purchasing capacity of a large segment of the population. By drawing on a historical materialist approach, I explain how and why state-sponsored securitization schemes subsidize financial and construction interests in the name of expanding home ownership among the poor. In doing so, I reveal how fundamental tensions and the wider processes of contemporary capital accumulation, and in particular the drive to realize value without producing it, has been mediated in such a way as to legitimate what David Harvey has rightfully defined as a key marker of neoliberalization, namely the tendency to redistribute wealth upwards without creating wealth. An example of this, which I discuss in my paper, is that through the subsidization schemes and neoliberalized environment facilitated by the Mexican state, financial and construction firms have concentrated their market shares even further in the country. In 2008, for instance, 4 private housing finance companies dominated 68% of the market share in construction bridge loans. In 2009, 60% of new house mortgages issued by the Mexican housing agency Infonavit were built by 25 construction companies. And in 2010, 88% of mortgage financing by Infonavit went to one construction company, namely Homex. As I demonstrate in my recent book, Debt Fair States in the Poverty Industry, mortgage securitization represents an important segment of the poverty industry in Mexico that fuels the expansion of credit-led accumulation on the backs of the poor, and which is underwritten and normalized by various components of neoliberal governance, one of which I refer to as debt fairism. One important feature of the regulatory and rhetorical hardware of debt fairism is that it has facilitated a common sense understanding that allows poverty, including the lack of adequate shelter, to be understood and treated exclusively in the realm of exchange. As many Antipode readers know, the realm of exchange, populated by what Marx refers to as the community of money, permits the ongoing illusions of freedom, equality, liberty, and Bentham, where common sense views about poverty proliferate and where deeper questioning about the construction of a world that depends on the realization of value without producing it are either silenced or discredited as irrational. It is in the bounds of the realm of exchange where neoliberal ideologues can easily reduce poverty to questions of financial inclusion, as opposed to politically more difficult questions regarding the lack of living wages and universalization of social protection for all, including those that have continued to be made surplus in credit-led accumulation. I hope that readers of Antipode will look at my new article and check out my new book to find out more. Thank you for listening.